It's really a great pleasure to welcome you to this graduation ceremony as a Pro-Vice-Chancellor of Ulster University. As a graduate of Ulster, I am immensely proud of our university, our civic contribution,
our excellence in teaching and research, our global engagement, and to see your success as Ulster students as you have progressed through your studies, to the ultimate manifestation of those years of hard work in these graduation ceremonies and today, the highlight of the university year. So congratulations to all graduating students and to your family and to your friends who have supported you throughout the years. As graduates, you will remain members of the university family, a global family spread across all corners of the world. As global citizens, I encourage you to be brave, take risks, continue to challenge yourselves. For you are tomorrow's leaders. You are our new, fresh professionals. You are the cutting-edge thinkers. You are the future. But you will often have to learn the rules of the game and be ready for the game to change. And whenever it does change, you have to play better than anyone else. I believe that the greatness of a nation rests on the education of its people. You have done what you've set out to do, so very well done. But I would ask you to remember what the great Irish writer George Bernard Shaw said. He said, "Success does not consist in never making mistakes, so you will make plenty of mistakes, but in never making the same one a second time." Recent years have rightly seen a significant debate within the higher education sector about the importance of the student experience in ensuring that those who come to university not only benefit from an excellent education, but also enjoy the rewards to be drawn from the dynamic and vibrant interactions of campus life. The people you meet, the conversations you have, those all-nighters you pulled, remember? The challenges those lecturers gave you, and in the vernacular, man, you've known real exhaustion. Leaving here today, you will be exploring different routes. Some of you will go into employment. Some of you will remain in education. Some of you will go back to your communities to apply your knowledge and skills to advance the economic, social, and cultural lives of those communities. Civic contribution, as it were. Some of you will travel the world. You will settle in other places. You will all meet new people, wrestle with new challenges, achieve new goals, but remember that in achieving new things, do so with enthusiasm. For as Henry Ford said, "Enthusiasm is the yeast that makes your hopes shine to the stars. Enthusiasm is the sparkle in your eyes, the swing in your gait, the grip of your hand, the irresistible surge of will and energy to execute your ideas." So be enthusiastic. Before you leave, I think it's worth reflecting on the concept of the student experience for a few moments. It is, of course, not one thing for any one person, and will have been different for each of you. Let me start by saying that I firmly believe students are the centre of our university life, working in partnership with academics and professional staff, not only to develop individuals through an all-embracing student experience, but also to build a university that plays its full role in the local civic and indeed the international academic community. As Pro-Vice-Chancellor, I take great pride in our university and its many wide and varied students and staff. In my view, it is a credit to our university, this university, that it provides its students with a superb range of facilities and activities to enable you to make the most of your university days. As you graduate today, it is my firm hope that you can look back on your student experience that has been challenging, rewarding, and transformational in its impact on your lives. Of course, when I talk of the student experience, as it were, I realize that this will mean something different for each and every one of you. Some of you will even associate with Stephen Fry's version of student life. Perhaps not so many today as perhaps yesterday. But he said, lectures broke into one's day and were clearly a terrible waste of time. Necessary, no doubt, if you were reading law or medicine or some other vocational subject. But in the case of English, the natural thing to do was to talk a lot, listen to music, drink coffee and wine, read books and go to plays, and perhaps be in plays. You came here as individuals, and I and the university appreciate that there are a myriad of different types of student experience, and it is our desire to see everyone as a unique individual, but to deliver the same excellent student experience to all. You see, it's not just at graduation that you become the centre of the university. The university firmly believes that what is good for our students is good for Ulster. Here too we recognise that students enter higher education from different backgrounds, through different routes, on different trajectories, and that they need different kinds of levels of support. I have come to know over the past couple of years that Ulster believes in being responsive to students' needs and strives to develop a deeper understanding of those needs. Supporting and enhancing the student experience through the student life cycle is critical to success in higher education today for both the student, that's you, and the university. The Ulster experience encompasses all aspects of student life, and the academic imperative is at the heart of it. You come to university to learn about your subject, and in the process, you learn about yourself. Be ambitious and make happiness your ambition. To get to where you are, you will have made many choices. You will have prioritised, perhaps teaching, research, the learning culture, university services, social life and sports facilities, opportunities to develop new relationships. It is about winning a place, or is it about winning a place at a highly ranked university? Is it about getting good employment opportunities, or being able to immerse yourself in a subject that you're passionate about? For you, it may have been some of those things. In fact, it may have been all of them. To me, all of these things are important, but what we must ensure is that the individual student and the student body remain at the centre. We must also ensure that there is not an overemphasis on performance data, pro forma checklists and key performance indicators. One thing is absolutely clear to me: student life is about challenge and about opportunity. A place where you can take your mind to the far-flung corners of your imagination, develop your skills, nurture your knowledge. For a university is a state of mind. It is a hothouse of ideas. You now have opportunities, and you have skills and an education that so many people who came before you could never have dreamed of. So just imagine the kind of impact that you're going to make. Imagine how you can inspire those around you to reach higher and to stretch further. Talking of change, the great writer Terry Pratchett in his book, The Last Continent, said, "But we're a university. We have to have a library," said Rid Cully. It adds tone. What sort of people would we be if we didn't go into the library? "Students," said Senior Wrangler morosely. So it's not about numbers, it's about people, and it's about ideas. And it's these things that give a university, our university, its life and soul. We are all different, but we are all the same. Part-time postgraduates attending classes on wet winter evenings after work, with career or personal development at the heart of their efforts, are different from young full-time undergraduates who value the overall quality of student life, in which formal academic engagement is an essential part of a wider experience. But you're all the same. You're all setting new goals and challenges for yourselves. We believe in engaging with potential students and their families before they have begun to think about university. And we are committed to developing and maintaining a lifelong relationship with our students and our graduates. So I want you to do something. I want you to keep in touch. I want you to register as an alumna or alumnus. And when you move job, I want you to tell us. When you move house, I want you to tell us. And if you move country, I want you to tell us, because we need to keep in touch. This is an important way of keeping connected. Whilst it may be popular amongst the sector's administrators to consider students as customers or consumers, Ulster sees its students as individuals, as friends and as part of its family. As students, you should expect high standards, yes, but we believe that at the centre of student life is a mutually beneficial relationship between the student and the university. A life and learning experience where student, university and staff live and grow together. The great actor and honorary graduate of this university, Sir Ian McKellen, talked. Try and understand what part you have to play in the world in which you live. There's more to life than you know, and it's happening out there. Discover what part of you can play and then go for it. So what of the parties? You know those parties. I still remember those parties. They are, of course, optional, but it's true that social life is part of student life, whatever form that social life might take. It's equally as true that students individually and collectively, through the student body, are in as strong a position as the university to shape life on campus. The university can provide the facilities, but there is a central role for you and your successors in providing the life and soul of this university. The patterns of student behaviour may have changed, technology may have provided new ways of communicating, and economic conditions may mean that more of you have to work to supplement your income during your studies. I know that your Students' Union is developing to be able to support students in this new context. What has not changed is that fundamental learning and development relationship between the student and the university, and long may it last. Be an ambassador for this university. Be global in your thinking and be ambitious, for the world is at your feet. Cherish your higher education, and above all, as I said, be an ambassador for Ulster and be champions for future generations of young people coming into higher education here. Can I again congratulate you all? Thank you for each and every individual contribution to Ulster. And can I wish you every success in whatever you do in life. Michelangelo said, "The greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that our aim is too low and we reach it." I urge each and every one of you to aim high, be global in your thinking, and keep in touch. Thank you. In accordance with the wishes of the Senate, and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I have conferred honorary degrees, and other academic distinctions of the University of Ulster on those named in the conferment list approved by the Senate. I call upon Professor Gormley Heenan to present Sally O'Neill for the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws.
I am delighted to present Sally O'Neill to receive an honorary doctorate from Ulster University this morning. I'm especially pleased to welcome Sally's family here today, her sister Kate Lewis and brother-in-law Eamon, as well as Kevin Donnelly, head of Trocra's programme in Northern Ireland. I'm also delighted to be able to welcome Sally's husband, Roger, and her daughters, Zio and Rona, and son, Roger, who are joining us today via the live streaming from different places across the world. When I was asked a few weeks ago to present Sally to receive this doctorate, I agreed without any hesitation. For me, it's an absolute privilege to be asked to do so. It's indeed a personal privilege to present Sally O'Neill, whose work in overseas development and humanitarian aid has saved countless lives across the globe, and who has combined courage, commitment, and compassion with a fearless determination to help oppressed communities to overcome injustice. But although spending much of her life living and working around the world, as far afield as Cambodia, Ethiopia, Honduras, and Guatemala, Sally is originally from Dungannon in County Tyrone. She's also one of our own. She's an alumna of Ulster. Sally began her studies, like many of you, at Ulster University, where she obtained an undergraduate degree in nutrition and home economics. Following that, she continued her studies in Dublin City University, where she gained a master's degree in international development, as well as a doctorate in social sciences. She then went to work in the world of international aid and development, a world in which she has remained for almost 40 years, working with a range of aid agencies in the world's poorest regions. And it's for her work with Trócaire that Sally is perhaps best known. Sally joined Trócaire back in 1978 and has been at the heart of Trócaire's overseas work for 37 years. Around the time of taking up her first post with Trócaire, 3 brutal civil wars broke out in Central America, in El Salvador, in Guatemala, and in Nicaragua. And so over the following 3 years, Sally was responsible for providing humanitarian aid to over 2 million refugees in that region, and in helping human rights organisations to investigate human rights abuses. She worked with countless families of the disappeared throughout Central America and collaborated with human rights organisations in Chile, investigating the victims of Pinochet's regime's abuses. She led delegations of political and church leaders to Central America so that they could see the suffering of people firsthand. And on one of these visits, she acted as an interpreter for Archbishop Oscar Romero just 6 weeks before he himself was then murdered by a military death squad in front of his own congregation in San Salvador in 1980. But her activities have stretched far beyond Central America. Indeed, Sally was also active in Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos, and she brought much-needed assistance to the victims of war and the survivors of Cambodia's Pol Pot regime. She went on to provide famine relief in Ethiopia in the mid-1980s and then on to Somalia in the 1990s, where she established a programme in Gedo which is still functioning today. Returning back to Central America in the late 1990s, Sally led the humanitarian efforts to rebuild homes in the aftermath of the 1998 Hurricane Mitch, which was one of the deadliest Atlantic hurricanes in history, with a death toll that was estimated to be more than 11,000 people and which had devastated much of the region. Now, retirement in 2015 has done nothing to slow Sally down. She has remained in Honduras as a facilitator with prisoners there who have been wrongfully convicted, and also for migrants in transit. It's fair to say that Sally's contribution to overseas development and humanitarian aid has rightfully not gone unrecognised. Among many other things, in 2012 she was appointed by the President of Ireland as a member of the high-level panel for the Presidential Distinguished Service Award for the Irish Abroad. In 2013, the Stormont All-Party Group on International Development at the Northern Ireland Assembly awarded Sally a Lifetime Achievement Award for her work. And to mark Sally's official retirement from Trócaire, as well as to celebrate her life in helping others, Sally was invited to a lunch at Aras an Uachtaráin with the President of Ireland, Michael D. Higgins, who wasn't just the President of Ireland, but who was in fact an old friend and colleague. He was the man with whom she travelled to El Salvador back in 1982 to investigate reports of a massacre in a village of El Mozote there. Sally and the now President of Ireland were initially refused entry into the country, but with perseverance they were eventually granted access, and as a consequence of their perseverance, they did uncover evidence of a massacre of civilians. Their joint report from El Mozote made its way to the pages of the international media, including the New York Times and the Washington Post. Because of this, there have been many words of praise for Sally and her commitment to overseas development. And I'm particularly drawn to Trócaira's chairman, Bishop William Crean's remarks. He said of Sally this: "During 37 years, Sally O'Neill has given outstanding service to Trócaira. Her work has been characterised by passion and compassion, by a deep sense of injustice, by taking the option for the poor, by solidarity, and by always challenging the structures of poverty and injustice." Work characterised by passion and compassion. These words have stuck with me. Sally, as I read through your blog recently on the long fight for justice in Guatemala, which is a moving account of Trócaira's groundbreaking work in Guatemala that began over 30 years ago, and the recent genocidal trial of the former dictator Rios Montt, I was touched by your passion and your compassion. Passion for your work and your drive to keep fighting for justice despite setbacks, and true compassion for those community whose justice you were fighting for. The question, of course, is, how do you do this? How do you retain both passion and compassion when faced with some of the world's worst atrocities of nature, as well as civil war and conflict? And I recall reading recently a newspaper interview when a journalist asked Sally this very question: how do you not buckle under the pressure? "You just get on with it," said Sally. "You search for a small chink of light in the darkness, and you start with that." And in being able to do so, Sally O'Neill has dedicated her life to overseas development, working with the poor, the marginalised, and victims of human rights abuses. And so because of this, Pro Vice-Chancellor, in the name of the Senate, I present to you Sally O'Neill for the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa.
I call upon Professor Carol Curran, Executive Dean of the Faculty of Life and Health Sciences, to present candidates.
Pro Vice-Chancellor, in the name of the Senate, I present to you candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy: Donna Stephanie Andrews, Esther Ruth Beck, Nicole Blackburn, Judith Blakeney, Ciara Campbell, Yvonne Bridget Corcoran, Sarah Mary Ellen Macaulay, Joanne Marley, Laurie McDermott, Hayat Sami Mushkab, the degree of Master of Philosophy, Ronan Morgan, the degree of Master of Science in Advancing Practice, Siobhan Collins, Nikki Gregg, Stacey Marie Hetherington, the degree of Master of Science in Health Promotion and Public Health, Seamus Hogan, Nicola Gormley, the degree of Master of Science in Sport and Exercise Medicine, Heather Glasgow, the degree of Master of Science in Sport and Exercise Psychology, Edward Birmingham, the degree of Master of Science in Sports Development and Coaching, Niall Patrick O'Neill, the Postgraduate Diploma in Physical Activity and Public Health, Lauren McAteer, the Postgraduate Certificate in Medicines Management, Suzanne Catherine Watson, the degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Sport and Exercise Sciences and Diploma in Professional Practice, Laura Feckus, Kerry Linda Jones, Ruth McLean, Matthew McClune, Rory McDonough, Enda McFerrin, Declan McKernan, Shane O'Connor, Christopher Samuel Penny, Peter Weir, Emma Willis, Andrew Bolster, Rebecca Boyce, Colin Campbell, Adam Cowie, Jessica Hassan, Sarah McGrath, Stephen McGullion, John McIver, Kirsty McKevitt, Mark McLaughlin, Eamon Ferguson, the degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Sport, Theory and Practice and Diploma in Professional Practice, David Blakely, Aaron Crossan, Jessica Foy, Emma Johnston, Jonathan Rodney Kelly, Daniel McCarthy, Caris Ruth McKnight, Sarah McNutt, James Patrick Riley, Simon Ball, Amy Samantha Davis, Adam Devine. Ryan Devine. Aidan Doherty. Niall Fitzgerald. Luke Forgrave. Brian Gurley. Neil Johnston Irwin. Francis James McEldowney. Amy Rose McElhatton. Mark Napier. Matthew Rogers. Declan Smart. Rachel Louise Smith. Lee Taylor. Ryan Christopher Bell. Lewis Davey. Lauren Marshall. Eamon Stewart. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Developing Practice in Healthcare, Patricia Mackey. Claire O'Hara. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Diagnostic Radiography and Imaging, Hannah Beattie. Sandra Heaney. Dervla Marie Lees. Jessica McGee. Ria McDermott. Catherine Louise Polly. Tessa Crawford. David Devine. Amy Susan Forrester. Megan Helen Hayes. Kevin Herdman. Miles Paul Keeley. Erin King. Judith Kirk. Katrina Ann McBride. Aoife Anna McCaffrey. Hannah Victoria McLean. Carla McCoy. Catherine Louise McKendrick. Rebecca Suzanne Moore. Danielle O'Neill. Danielle Grace Ormerod. Kelly Thompson. Chelsea Winchester. Kiva O'Neill. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Health and Wellbeing, Donna Stinson. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Health Physiology, Jordan Lee Bickerstaff. Christopher Paul McComb. Ellen Elizabeth Spears. Gareth Thompson. Raki A. Alwan. Laura Claire Beattie. Aisling Fagan. Anna Rose McCambridge, Lisa McLean, Nicole McGillian, Kevin McClellan, Emma Mulgrew, Lewis Winston Pearson, Ian Stewart, Ronan McGeary, Courtney Watson. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Healthcare Science, Cardiac Physiology, Christina Barnes. Christina Hunter. Joanne Rocks. Aoife Conroy. Rosanna Gibbons. Chloe Hodgen. Amy McCulloch. Maria McGee. Kerry Lee McKeever. Shannon McLaughlin. Tammy Pettigrew. Emer Quinn. Robin Ann Todd. Monica Alcassandra Kostek. Niamh McLaughlin. Moira Magella McNally. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Healthcare Science, Respiratory and Sleep Physiology, Dervla Rosaline Kelly. Sarah Cleland. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Occupational Therapy, Ellen Bailey. Susan Carlyle. Louise Catherine Lowry. Rebecca McCord. Jessica McElroy. Helen Mary McGinley. Sarah Muldoon. Rebecca Mary O'Donnell. Emma Orr. Claire Amy Rush. Catherine Elizabeth Wells. Lauren Andrews. Jasmine Barnes. Orla Brosnan. Emer Cassidy. Denise Chacho. Hannah Kuhn. Elizabeth Crowther. Orla Doyle. Susan Ferguson. Pamela Johnston. Louise Lennon. Emma McEldowney. Cleona Marie McFarlane. Shannon McQuaid. Shauna McShane. Sarah Mooney. Brona. Brona Ann Murray. Cheryl Martha Nesbitt. Neve Shine. Amy Sweeney. Ciara Ward. Emma McCann. Seanan McCourt. Lauren McNabb. Laura Moan. Rebecca Murray. Deborah White. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Physiotherapy, Ellen Collum. Andrew Calvin Kernahan. Chloe Layden. Dylan McGee. Naomi McGlynn. Samuel Peter McKendry. Lauren McMurtry. Aoife Marie McReynolds. Stuart Gordon Moore. Luke O'Donnell. Alona Savkova. Maria Bisarova Sotirova. Jenny Louise Stevenson. Sarah Barbara Allen. Lauren Black. Rianne Brannigan. Ben James Carlin. Orla Casey. Sinead Coleman. Matthew Curley. Lorna Mary Flanagan. Kelly Fox. Emily Gaffney. Emer Gallen. Laura Gillen. Ellen Amy Graham. Alice Jane Greaves. Kelly Harron. Daniel Luke Irvine. Olivia Irwin. Kayleigh Jess. Nicole Keane. Emer Marie Kelly. Niall Kelly. James Derek Lorimer. Luke Patrick McCann. Matthew McCann. Clodagh McClelland. Amy McCulley. Aaron McFall. James Henry Thomas McCaughey. Ian Charles Francis McElfatrick. Brendan McKillop, Alison Lynn McMullen, Lucia Frances McNaughton, Grania Moss, Sarah O'Kean, Katrina Sloan, Diane Thompson, Adair Traynor, Christopher James Wright, Michael McConnell. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Podiatry, Eva Clark. Tara Doyle. Rachel Ann George. Rebecca Ann Harvey. Naomi Jameson. Megan Whitney Louise King. Aisling O'Hare. Con Rooney. Connor Sharvin. Sarah Black. Niamh O'Neill. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Radiotherapy and Oncology, Lynn Alcorn. Laura Johnston. Sophia Lauren McGonigal. Ryan Newburn. Zoe Davis. Corina Donnelly. Sarah McGuckin. Gerard McKiernan. Sharelle Miller. Judith Ann Morrow. Emily Rebecca Semple. Joanne Roberta Struthers. Margaret Frances Carmichael. Sophie Julia Sarah Gribben. Shannon Margaret Patterson. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Specialist Nursing Practice, Una McCurdy. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Speech and Language Therapy, Emily Laura Green. Monica Eva Imileski. Sarah McNally. Jessica O'Brien. Lucy Armstrong. Rachel Brown. Erin Buckley. Orla Mary Campbell. Shannon Cassidy. Emily Edwards. Claire Ferguson. Sarah Green. Nora Halpin. Mairead Ann Jennings. Rebecca Ernestine King. Emma Louise McBurney. Chloe McConnell. Orla McGrath. Edel Marie McLaughlin, Edel Neeson, Shannon Powell, Claire Rooney, Natasha Caroline Warrener, Carla Louise O'Boyle. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Sport and Exercise Sciences, Amy McCall. Sarah Ann Brashaw. Nathan Coulter. Jamie Devlin. Jason Devlin. Alan Fullerton. Adam Kelly. Tony McAlevey. Dermot Arthur Jonathan McCrillan. Ryan Edward George Morell. Grace Louise Palmer. Sarah Taylor. Lauren Thompson. Jamie Crooks. Daniel Duffin. Adam Gillespie. Jack Patrick Maxwell. Lewis Patmore. Kathy Rees. Mark Whitten. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Sport Studies, Stephen William Frizzell. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Sport, Theory and Practice, Shelby Elizabeth McReynolds. Ronan Nugent. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Sports Coaching, Timmy Allen Gibson Burns. Francis Christopher Marsh. Richard Stephen Graham. Tyler Michael. Elzbieta Maria Nadolska. Haley Priestley. Frances Taggart. The Associate Bachelor's Degree in Healthcare Science, Cardiac Physiology, Lauren Quinn. Pro Vice-Chancellor, this concludes the presentation of candidates from the Faculty of Life and Health Sciences.
Thank you, Professor Curran, for presenting candidates. I call upon Professor Carmichael, Associate Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, to present candidates.
In the name of the Senate, I present to you candidates for the degree of Master of Science in Communication and Public Relations, Daniel Barry. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Public Relations and Diploma in International Academic Studies, Grace McKenna. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Communication, Advertising and Marketing and Diploma in Professional Practice, Chelsea Brennan. Amy Connor. Stephanie Curry. Sian Eastwood. Carissa Glenn. Charlotte Goss. Jacqueline Lamb. Gemma Therese Lundy. Anya McAlonan. Lauren Kelly McCann. Beth McClements. Melissa McComish. Ellen Elizabeth Mullen. Lydia Gillian Stevenson. Kira Hegarty. Jordan King. Chloe Olive McClenaghan. Joseph McVeigh. Catherine Moore. Laura Helen Morton. Lauren Sharkey. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Public Relations and Diploma in Professional Practice, Michelle McCracken. Hannah Beastie. Emma Courtney. Nathan Doma. Aaron McCann. Megan McCluskey. Catherine McCooey. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Communication, Advertising and Marketing and Diploma in Professional Practice International, Treyer Short. Rosemary Helen Barbara Bradbury Ogden. Maeve McElduff. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Public Relations and Diploma in Professional Practice International, Benjamin Alistair. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Communication with Advertising, Amy Anderson. Michaela McDermott. Conleth McGrenigan. Alan Wallace. Celine Fleming. Dorina McCardle. Sarah McPolin. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Communication with Counselling, Niamh Ann McMahon. Laura Toner. Kira Armstrong. Brona Brannigan. Alison Holdsworth. Aoife Loughran. Christina Grace McBride. Finvala McIntyre. Ella McLarnon. Grania Murphy. Paul Quinn. Jenna Shepherd. Rachel Tate. Emily Thornton. Laura Sarah Wilson. Erin Elliott. Aoife Toll. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Communication with Public Relations, Michaela Diamond. Claire Green. Olivia Emily Hampton. Grania Anne McGuckin. Sarah Louise Rush. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Communication, Advertising and Marketing, Leah Stuttard. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Language and Linguistics, Niamh Duffy. Samantha Finlay. Jennifer Henrietta McMillan. Helen Hawthorne. Niamh Kelly. Demetrius Kyriasis. Nicole Lewis. Sophie Ellen McComb. Anna Maloney. Maeve Elizabeth Dorman. Rachel McCartan. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Language and Linguistics with Counselling, Katrina Breen. Kira Elizabeth Highland Ross. Rachel McAteer. Niamh O'Neill. Antigone Graham Pearce. Niamh Bradley. Stephanie Louise Hobbs. Lisa Marie Owens. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Language and Linguistics with Public Relations, Wilma Grace Gordon. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Professional Development in Counselling, William Andrew Kuhn. Catherine Mary Gillan. The degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours in Public Relations, Bethan Maguire. Gemma McCooey. Amy O'Hare. Paul Casey Armstrong. Pro-Vice-Chancellor, this concludes the presentation of candidates from the Faculty of Social Sciences.
Thank you, Professor Carmichael, for presenting candidates. I call upon our honorary graduate, Dr. O'Neill, to address the congregation on behalf of those having been presented.
Vice-Chancellor, members of the Senate and Council, fellow graduates this morning, your families and friends and your parents, it's a huge honour for me to be here today in Belfast to receive this honorary degree in laws, and I'm incredibly grateful to the university for conferring this degree. And I want to dedicate this degree this morning to the many thousands of human rights defenders whom I have had the privilege to work with all over the developing world. The best part of graduation is going on to the party with family and friends, and I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things I've been able to do, which I'm very grateful to Professor for explaining at the introduction to my conferring. But what I would like to say is that to dedicate this to three particular groups of women, and for me this morning, one of the most astonishing things at this graduation has been the number of young women who are graduating. When I graduated years and years ago, probably only a quarter of those graduating were women. So I think it's a fantastic sign. The United Nations has called us all to put gender and empowerment of women at the heart of all our development activities, and it's wonderful to see today so many young women graduating here, and I am sure that one day many of you will be here also receiving honorary doctorates for the work that you will do in the future across the globe. The woman that I would most like to dedicate my honorary degree to is a lawyer, Marianela Garcia, the woman who was the first woman appointed to the Parliament, voted into the Parliament of El Salvador, and she was the person who led the investigation into the massacre at El Mozote, which was referred to earlier, in 1982. That massacre was actually brought to the attention of the whole world by another woman from Northern Ireland, a poor Clare sister from Newry, who was living about 2 kilometres away from the site of the massacre where 1,000 people were murdered. And Marianela Garcia, who went to investigate that murder, was trapped in the region when the massacre had happened and was tortured for 3 days before she was finally shot and killed. And her family and friends and her faculty set up the first free legal aid centre in El Salvador to work with the victims of the Civil War. When I first went to Latin America and people asked me where I was from, and when I mentioned the words Northern Ireland, there were usually two responses in Central America. The first response was to ask me if I knew that Northern Ireland had played against Honduras in a World Cup qualifier sometime in the 1980s, and I think the match was a draw, which made it easier. So it's useful that this week this university has also conferred an honorary degree on Martin O'Neill, who maybe even played on that team and who certainly has trained many young Honduran footballers in recent times. But the second question and the second thing that people would say, regardless of whether it was in Latin America, in Somalia, in Ethiopia, in some of the poorest countries of the world, people would say you must be so happy to be here and not back in Northern Ireland, where the only news they ever heard in those years was of the troubles, of killings, of bombing, of people dying. And I think when I think back to those years and I think of some of the changes that came about, I remember also another group of remarkable women who probably taught me everything I know about law and the rule of law and the importance of the rule of law. And those women were called the grandmothers of the Plaza de Mayo in Argentina, a group of women who began a slow and silent protest in the early 1980s, trying to recover their sons and daughters who had been disappeared. In those years, even the United Nations did not use the term enforced disappearance. And the manner in which many of those young women, university students like you in their great majority, had been arrested, tortured and killed, and indeed many of them who were pregnant at the time of their arrest were kept alive until their babies were born, and those babies were distributed across the world, sometimes to military families, sometimes in quasi-legal forms of adoption. And those grandmothers, at a time when it wasn't nice to talk about human rights, gathered every first Friday of the month in the main square in Buenos Aires. They put a white handkerchief on their heads and they simply marched around in silent protest with the picture of one of their loved ones. And from that courageous and silent march, years and years later, the truth emerged as to what had happened. Some of their children were pushed alive from helicopters over the sea in that area where the Latinos call Malvinas and where you probably know it as the Falklands. But those mothers of the Plaza de Mayo have really changed legal jurisprudence in that now the crime against humanity of disappearance is recognized, and it took a group of largely illiterate grandmothers to take that courageous stance, which has led to changes in international jurisprudence and has changed the way in which many of us in the Western world think about development, think about human rights as an integral component of human development, something that when I left college was absolutely never thought of. Human rights was something that was seen only as political and civil rights, but the wider vision of protecting and promoting human rights as a precondition for any kind of development is now considered standard. I also want to pay tribute to the incredible work that is done at this university and of which I hear regardless of where I go, from Sri Lanka to the Balkans to Colombia to Chile. The name of the Ulster University is held in enormous respect, especially by victims, especially by people on the margins who don't find recourse to the kind of knowledge that we have here in Ireland and to the kind of knowledge and research which this university has carried out. And for those of you who may be forced to go overseas to work because of a lack of opportunities in Ireland, it would be wise of you, when you say you're coming from Ulster University, to quickly peep into the website of the Institute for Transitional Justice and know what they do, because regardless of where you go, you will hear that institute and the people who work in it mentioned time and time again as a group of people who have brought new learning, best practice, and raised hope for many thousands of victims across the world. And in raising hope for those victims, what they have been able to do is to take our sad and tragic history, and especially our history of the 1970s and 80s in Northern Ireland, and they have learned from the peace processes, from peace building, peacemaking, conflict resolution, and bringing hope especially to the victims, because perhaps one of the most difficult issues that has to be dealt with in any conflict in the developing world is that once the amnesties are granted for the political actors who've been involved, the families of the victims have to watch as many walk free while they can never recover their loved ones. And for many of the young people graduating here this morning, you were not even born when the Troubles started, and this is probably something about our history for which you are no longer interested in looking back and you want to look forward to the future. And in looking forward to the future, I would strongly encourage you, those of you who still don't know what you're going to do, and I have to confess on the day of my graduation, I had no idea what I would do with my life. And 2 days later, I was invited to a talk at Queen's University by a group of people from London recruiting people who would go overseas. And from that talk, 2 of us were selected from Northern Ireland to go, and we ended up, the other person was Paddy Coulter, who may be well known to you in the journalist world. Paddy Coulter worked for many years at Channel 4 in the UK. And that was my chance. They offered me to go to Nairobi or they offered me to go to Guatemala. And I'm deeply grateful that I chose Latin America, for it's been there that I've learned most of the most valuable lessons about how to do legal reform from below, from the perspective of barefoot legal workers, literally poor peasant women and farmers who have changed their lives and who fought all their lives for the rule of law. And when I encourage you to think perhaps of looking for roles in development, I also pay tribute to the many Irish charities and organisations who have done fantastic work in protection and promotion of human rights across the globe. But in this field, there are opportunities for everyone. If you're working in finance and business, we need people to help small farmers do business plans to be able to change their destiny. We also need people in marketing who can help them also access markets and access new skills and be able to sell their products in a more globalized environment. And of course, if you're in the more traditional areas, the one I came from, economics, home economics, from nursing, those are the areas for which there are many, many openings. And I don't want you just to take my word for it. If I tell you that some of the richest and most famous people in the globe have turned to the whole area of philanthropy and working for social change, one of the best known is Bill Gates, perhaps the richest man still in the world, who gave up his day job at Microsoft to set up a foundation to look for solutions to the health problems that conflict most of the African countries. But not only Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, another incredibly rich investor, our own Irish-American Chuck Feeney, who made his fortune from setting up duty-free stations or duty-free shops all over the world, all of them billionaires have literally turned their back on the opportunities of lives of luxuries and have all gone into work with setting up organizations in the developing world. And it's not just them. Look at how many celebrities and people you know, from Princess Diana to Angelina Jolie to Bono and Geldorf and many, many other younger people. All of them have found that working, or what used to be called do-gooding, doing good is not just good for people in need, for people who've been victims of all kinds of abuses and rights. Doing good is also good for your soul and for your happiness and well-being. And finally this morning, I end by some words of hope, because often when we look at what's been said to new graduates, when we look at the problems of where and how you're going to work into the future and how your lives will change. When I first went to Latin America, it took 3 months for a letter to come back from Peru to Dungannon. And today I laughed when I saw one of our graduating students take a selfie. It's probably on Instagram already and has gone around the world immediately. So that opportunity to be able to connect to that globalized world is a really important one. And I end with some examples of how young people, sometimes desperate young people, have totally transformed the way we live, the way we think, and the way we communicate. Starting, of course, with people like Steve Jobs. Some of them didn't even go to college, dropped out of college in their first year, didn't feel they even needed a college degree to do what they did. And the founders of Facebook, the founders of things that now we rely on so much like Uber, the man who created Uber, and he just lost his job a couple of weeks ago, so there might be some lessons to be learned there in how to behave on your team and good work practice. But the person who founded Uber had been a community worker with Barack Obama in Chicago And on the day he was invited to Barack Obama's inauguration, he couldn't find a cab and he sprinted 4 kilometers in freezing weather to get there, and the idea for Uber was born. The people who set up Airbnb, that have probably already transformed many of your lives, allows students to go anywhere, to travel overseas, came about also when a group of graphic designers were asked in San Francisco if they could host a conference for their peers, but they couldn't afford the hotel fees, and they simply chatted around who had a free sofa, who would allow someone to kip in their apartment, and out of that grew the concept of Airbnb. So here among us today, no doubt, there are brilliant ideas, there's a lot of new thinking, there's probably a lot of parents who hope that there's going to be new thinking, otherwise you're going to be in the basement, in the spare room for many years to come. But instead of that, I wish you well. I hope that all of you will succeed at whatever you choose to do in the future. And if you choose to get into development work, remember those wonderful organisations, the Trócaires, the Oxfams, the Christian Aids, those charities out there who need you and your skills, your energy to be able to make this world a better place. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you, Dr. O'Neill, for such really a thought-provoking and an inspirational speech. Thank you very much. I now call upon Kerry Linda Jones, a new graduate in the Faculty of Life and Health Sciences, to propose a vote of thanks.
Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, I feel humbled and privileged to speak to you on behalf of those graduating today. Who would have thought that a country girl from Auchnacoy would be provided with such an opportunity? But this is one of many opportunities which Ulster University has offered me over my 4 years of study. Our degree certificates are a demonstration of hard work, effort and dedication, supported by endless cups of coffee and many sacrificed sleep. Of course, behind this rewarding, special and eagerly anticipated certificate lies every part of our experience at Ulster University. And it is that experience that shapes our future prospects and potential. Our studies, the relevance of the knowledge and the life skills that we have acquired, the confidence that we have gained, and the firm friendships that we have made. We have balanced the challenge of completing our studies with seeking opportunities to enhance our employability as Ulster University graduates, with a number of us being privileged enough to have the next step ready and waiting, whether it is employment or further education in a master's or, like myself, a PGCE. Ulster University is a place where knowledge is created, generated, shared and brought to life. We leave here as assured and well-equipped graduates, ready to fulfil our career ambitions. The knowledge and qualities that we have gained in our time here will in turn shape and influence others in the many and varied paths that each of us here today will now choose to take. We remain ambassadors for the university, proud to tell others of the doors that it can open and the possibilities it presents. On behalf of my fellow students and friends here today, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our families and our friends who have supported us and encouraged us in our university career. Of course, our lecturers and support staff are right at the heart of our time here at Ulster University, and we thank them all for their inspiration, understanding and guidance. So thank you all for being part of this very special occasion, a celebration for everyone, not just for those of us graduating, but for all who play a part in enhancing our potential and shaping bright futures. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Well done, Kerry. That was absolutely fabulous. Thank you. Now, before we close, I would like to just pay a bit of due respect and thanks to the folks sitting around the auditorium. So I would ask you if you, as graduating students, would like to stand. Yeah, please. And I'd like you to look to wherever your family is, and I'd like you to clap and say thank you. So very well done. If you can just be seated for a minute. I declare this graduation ceremony closed, and I invite the new graduates to join the academic procession.